Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This time, as you can see, looking at hopefully you can see a PC engine. So I'll just carefully put this tape off here. I don't want to damage the thing below. But what I'm hoping we've got here is a PC engine, a hue card, a controller, and it should have one of those adapters that goes onto the back of it. In fact, well, it looks like it is just from the size, physical size of the thing here. Up on there. Yeah, so I think this will be wrap off. Yeah, so controller's a bit dirty, but yellowed, very dirty actually. But yeah, that'll clean up. I'm sure I can get that looking pretty clean. This is probably quite dirty as well, but I've got another one of these coming, a faulty one. Yeah, pretty scratched up, but yeah, the main thing is this one's working. I think, yeah. But yeah, I should be able to, clean it, de-yellow it. But you can see it's got one of these Tenkazoe, whatever they're called. I can't even read it on the back. It's like an adapter. I think it's battery powered from what I've seen. Yeah, look, you've got a little battery flap here. Oh god, I can't believe there's still batteries in it. Well, if they're not leaked, that's one positive thing. But apparently that's not working. But what I want to do with this is modify that piece and have some sort of connector. Now originally I got this just for composite, and I might stick this on here. I might do two. I might have an RGB lead coming out, a SCART socket or something, and I might have a composite one as well. Just because in the first instance that's what I've got to hand. I've got the SCART lead here, so I could just wire an RGB lead straight in. So I might just wire an RGB lead straight in. I don't know. I'll have a think about that. But I think this just comes off, does it? Does it just pull out or something? I'm not sure how it comes out of there. How's it held in? I don't really see a connection or anything. It must just go out like that. There we go. Yeah, so you can see the expansion connector there. So I think, from what I understand, the RGB and sync and stuff is passed through there. Now I'll need to amplify it. I think the sync levels are quite low. The RGB levels are very low as well. So if you can see that board is just a bit warped. You see it warping down there. So I'm hoping it's just like a loose, dry joint or something in there, or some corrosion or something. Pins look good there. It's got the gaming, that's good. That looks alright. So, yeah, power supply wise, I just need to check the polarity, but in theory I should be able to power this from something like a Mega Drive power supply. Just need to get the right polarity there, I think. But yeah, that's quite sweet. So I think we'll have a look at this first. This is the bit that's supposed to apparently not work. So I'll just get these screws out. Looks like there's just 4 screws there, I think, and we'll just take it apart, see what's inside. Well, that's interesting. Once you've got the screws out, it just lifts like that at the back, and you can see, it's hinged here. You can see those little slots there. It's just like really, yeah, supporting that hinge there, and it just comes off. But yeah, there's not very much on here. The first thing I thought, is that it? Is that it? That Sanyo chip there? I'm guessing that has to be a RAM. That's a RAM, I think. I'm pretty sure. And it says there backup sys, so it's a backup system, presumably. But then the other interesting thing is it's got one of these quad flat packs on the back here with Hudson written on it. You can see that. So yeah, we might have a faulty chip. There could be a bad connection. Maybe the RAM's gone bad. I don't know, but yeah, I'll inspect this, clean up the board if I need to, report back if there's anything I think is worth pointing out. But I think maybe this probably will work. I think once it's been cleaned up, it could just be bad connections or something. But what's nice, I guess, really the main thing is we've got the I/O port there, so we should be able to hijack the RGB signals and things. I think in the first instance I'm going to do what I originally thought. Actually, I'm going to put the composite on there because there's less connections and I don't need the amplifier. So at least I don't think I do. I may well need the amplifier. I don't think I do. I think it should be alright with the composite signal, but ultimately I'll add both. I'll give this capability for both types of output. So I think one of the things I might do with this later, rather than retro bright, it doesn't look like it's normally yellow. It's not yellowed, I don't think. I think these marks are just like dirt that's ingrained in the plastic. Because you can see, it's like on the very edges and stuff here. I suspect, actually, if I take this off, take this to pieces, take the case off, and stick it in a load of oxy action, some boiling water for a period of time, I reckon a lot of that dirt might come off there, actually. I think it's superficial surface dirt, but there are obviously some scratches, you know. They might clean up a bit when the black marks and things come out of the grooves. Might not be as visible. The other one of these I've ordered has got a pristine case, and that one's faulty, so I may well be able to swap the cases around. I'd like to get them both working if I can, but yeah, I'll have a go at that later anyway. But I think right now, I think what I'm going to do actually with this is just the simplest thing, is to wire up on here, left, right, composite and ground, and just have 4 wires, you know, going to the underneath of here. Just leave it in an open state with the wires hanging out, and then I need to check the power on here. Where's it gone? Power connector, there you go, power socket, and I guess I've put my meter on continuity and check between the centre pin. I just want to make sure that the whether it's ground or not, and I can test from here. Can you see the shielding around this connector? That's going to be ground regardless, so I should be able to determine which one, without even taking it apart, whether it's centre positive or centre negative, and at that point I should be able to power it on, I think, and give it a try. So I've just quickly wired up the composite cable here. I'll show you in a minute, but if I put the, you can just about see it down here, if I put the in continuity mode, put it on the tip there, and then move the probe to the negative of that cap, you can see it's centre negative. And the same thing, you won't be able to see it, but if I put the probe on the right hand side here onto the shielding, not onto the centre pin, onto the shielding of the RF connection, again we've got a short there, so it's centre negative here. So there you go, check the polarity. My Mega Drive, Mark 1 Mega Drive here power supply is sufficient, and as you can see I've got a nice clear display, which is amazing actually. That's just composite. So let's hit the run button, let's give this a go. I don't know if the controller's going to be any good, soon find out. Is it hanging? I think it's hanging. Switch it off and on. I managed to take the card out and put the card back in again. I mean, it is described as good working system, this, but it may well not be. It could have a dodgy controller as well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I suspect there's something wrong somewhere, because you can see that just reset. Yeah, so I think there's a bad connection there somewhere. I'll have to take the thing apart, just have a good look inside and stuff, but it could even be a cap. But that was taking forever to load the art, the R-type thing scrolling across there was like frame by frame. But it does seem to be a connectivity thing, or maybe a cap that's warmed up, but yeah, after a bit of messing around, reconnecting it all back up, you can see it's working alright. And it's not bad for a composite picture. Well, it is, it's a bit shimmery. You can see down, if you look at some of the colours down, the reds, it's a bit, it blurs a little bit on the edges and things, but yeah, I'm very impressed. The PC Engine is very capable. If you look how smooth the animations are and stuff there, it's very fast, responsive. It's a shame I didn't get the controller with the auto fire, but I can always get a different controller, I guess. Good grief. Yeah, I'm very impressed with how smooth it is. This is smoother than many of the 16-bit versions. The colours are fantastic. I think the only problem with this game is I think it's split into 2 cards from what I remember. So I'm not sure how many of the levels I've got on this, I'm not going to play it all the way through. Although I will be getting an EverDrive at some point, I think, probably very soon. Yeah, very, very close to the arcade, this version. Probably the most, near to the arcade, I think. From what I've seen, all the home versions, console versions, don't really do this game that much justice. Oh, shit. Anyway, I think I'll just tear the unit down now, show you the insides. So now that I've proven it's working and everything, I think I'll take this apart and I'll give the case a good scrub. and you know, the control, look how dirty it is, it's just disgusting. I've tried just using like isopropyl and stuff, it's just not coming off, so it's either yellowed or, you know, it's just like, I don't know, nicotine colouring or something, you know, it's stained it. So I'll try and give it a go in the sink with just some soap and water and then some Vanish. Leave it for a few hours in highly concentrated sort of load of Vanish. The screwdriver you need to get in this, it's the same one you can use in the SNES and N64. It's exactly the same game bit type. So once you've got all 4 screws out, the bottom just lifts off here. I'm not sure how this is going to come out of here now. Let's see. I think there's a ribbon, isn't there? Yeah, there is. It holds the top part to the bottom part here. So I'll need to disconnect that. I don't want to bend it too much because it's quite stiff, that actually. But I think if I unscrew this here, I can take that off and then obviously clean the case down. You can see the board's like really compact. There's next to nothing on there really. You can see these 3 Hudson branded quad flat packs here. A couple of RAMs I think we got there. Yeah, 2 RAMs. So I'm not sure if one's like work RAM, one's like graphics RAM or something. Or whether the graphics RAM's embedded on one of these 3 chips. But there's not much, you know, there's no SMD caps. You've got loads of wet type electrolytics here. Some small NEC IC down the front there. I'm not sure what that is until I have a close look in a minute. But yeah, very little on these boards at all, really. It's amazing. Now you've got is that a diode, I think. Oh, sorry, off camera. Diode there, fuse. That's interesting. Didn't realise there's a fuse on board. Is that 7805? Yeah, good old 7805. Not a very big heat sink for that actually. So I think you need to pay close attention to the size, you know, the power that you put into this. If you put too high voltage, that might not be able to dissipate the heat enough, and you might burn out the regulator and ultimately kill the board. The switch is nice on these. It really gives a really nice, satisfying switching feel when you slide it across, I have to admit. Anyway, I'll unscrew this now and clean up the case. So I thought I'd just show you the controller PCB while we're here as well. It's an interesting brown coloured PCB. It's not often you see that sort of thing actually in these consoles. They're mostly always green. I'm just looking up here. What's this? I don't know. There's like little. I don't know what these are. Like little joins, or I don't know what they are. Very strange, you know, with the little green blobs on. I mean, obviously these are the contacts for the buttons and things. Sorry, I lose my voice. So you've got 2 ICs on. Well, it can support 2 ICs. I wonder if this one will support the auto fire as well. That was crooked then, you've seen that. That wire was just coming off there. But yeah, it's got standard 74 HC157 on there, but it supports the HC163, and it's got certainly the position here for a cap, I think. So I'm not sure if that's for the auto fire or something. Is that what this is here? 2 switch positions. HLS, high, low, something, I don't know. Yeah, it looks like maybe this board could support some sliders or something here. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't want to mod it. I'll keep it as it is. I'll just get another controller for an auto fire. And obviously these need cleaning up. I'll do these separately. And these are in a pretty sorry state really. They're not too bad on the underside. A bit worn, I guess. But I'll just clean them up with some soap and water on the outside, and then on the contacts there, just a tiny bit of isopropyl. They're alright. But I just thought I'd show you something else as well, actually, before I forget. The reason this was intermittent when I first tested it, I'll see if I can zoom. Might be a bit difficult. Yeah, it's not going to focus, I don't think. Yeah, it's not going to focus, but can you just see this white speck here? There's like a bit of cotton or tissue or something over one of the pins. The pin is barely protruding through it. So that's why I was getting that intermittent thing where the game was starting, but it was running really slowly and then resetting. So yeah, I need to get something in there to get that out. So something else you might be interested in, I'm not going to take the shielding off completely on the bottom, but you can just see got some of those little SMD resistors there. They look like the traditional size, but they're quite small and they're surface mounted. I could take this piece of shielding off the bottom here, but it's like there's 2 layers. There's as you can see, there's a clear plastic layer in between, and if you look where it's soldered here, and then look over here, so this clear piece, the clear piece is you know, right next to where you soldered to. So if I heat that, it's probably going to melt it. I don't want to do that, it's going to make a mess. I don't think there's any need, because if you look at the connectors, because the only thing I was really bothered about is the connectors. Look at the power jack, I could easily solder that if I wanted to, and it's a similar thing with the controller point over here. You can gain access to it just by bending this back a little bit like that, so I don't want to take that off, there's no point really. I've had a good look around the board, the solder connections and things all look really good. I don't see any signs of corrosion, although if you just look here at the regulator, middle pin, yeah, it's not so clean there. I might see if I can just, yeah, pull this back a little bit and just see if I can heat the regulator pins, which, yeah, I can from underneath there. So I might just do that, I might just resolder the regulator points, but yeah, it's not too bad. The cap's not leaked, it's nothing like that, you know. All the caps look really good. And it does perform perfectly, this, you know, like I say, other than the first problem I had with the slot being a bit dirty. I think it's pretty good actually. Some people, I've seen some people do is take the modulator off here and use the switch position to have a switch on the board and switch between regions. And the way you do that, I forget where it is now, I think some of the pins here, there's some like 6 or 8 pins here that typically you can, I think the mods I've seen, you snip them and then use wires to swap some of them around, because I think that's where how the protection works. So maybe the data bits, and some of the data bits are swapped, you know, it's like obfuscation, I can't even say it. So it's a very basic form of protection. But yeah, I've seen that before where people have, let's say, snipped several of the, you know, maybe 8 of the pins here and then swapped some of them around using wires. I've seen little boards and things you can get that can automatically switch them around, and let's say if you use the position of the modulator here and use this switch, that's a good place because the switch is obviously on the external case there, you don't need to cut a hole there for that. And I think Retro Game Tech US, I think it's Game Tech US, he's got a little board that he's developed that you can, you know, mod this with, so I might try and get one of those off him at some point. That might be quite cool. I might just mod this up to be, you know, switch between regions, because I do have a copy of Blazing Lasers here actually for the you know, the European system that Console Snob Scott sent me a while back. But the other thing that people commonly do with this when they remove the modulator is use the position here on the, you know, that comes out on the case for you know, the DIN, you know, some sort of DIN lead for RGB or for composite. I don't want to do that though. I don't really want to modify the case. Well, I don't really want to modify. I'm going to leave that in place. I think if I did do something with it, I might just disable the switch or alter the switch, the way the switch functionality in here or something, leave the modulator on, I don't know. So here's the other PC engine. This apparently gives a white screen, so yeah, it's a bit battered up again and it's in a, you know, disgusting sort of yellowed state. But yeah, it might come up as clean as the other one. I think if I get some of that blonde stuff onto it, hopefully it should look like new. So the interesting thing, just for comparison here, I thought I'd show the one where I've cleaned up with the oxy action. You know, it's still a little bit of yellowing, a little bit there, a little bit here, and on the very edges you can see, you know, where the case joins. But actually, it's pretty good that after just using some oxy action. But if you compare to this one, yeah, there's a noticeable difference there. I think this one will come up just as good as that one. It's not too bad. Even these black marks come off actually with the oxy action. So originally it was just given a white screen, but as you can see, it goes white then black, as if it has actually reset. I think it's supposed to go green, isn't it, not white? So I don't know whether that's indicating anything. Maybe it's got a RAM fault, or maybe it is just a bad connection. I don't know. So I think I'll take it to you know, to pieces. Just have a look inside. Perhaps measure the voltage coming out of 7805. So here's a quick update. Actually, you can see how much difference that's made today. Actually, with the second coat of I didn't say peroxide. Then I didn't use peroxide. Just used Vanish. That's it. Oxy action. Just left it overnight. The sink, kitchen sink here. Look, I mean, look at it. It's just like brand new. There's barely a mark on that. It's amazing. These don't actually yellow. When they look yellowed, it's probably just like smoke or something that's got onto them, or dirt. Because let's say I've not used any H2O2 at all on these, and they were extremely yellow, both of them. Even the controller, very pleased with the controller. Look at the end result of that. That's like new. The only thing that's slightly yellowed, can you see underneath? It's just slightly yellowed. This has had a second coat. This went in the sink again for another 24 hours. This has had 48 hours in total. But it's, it's just a bit yellowed here underneath. I could treat that with some peroxide, but I think even if I put that back in with some varnish, that will probably go away, because after leaving it in another 24 hours, it's better than it was. And you can just see this little, very thin line on the very edge, the edge there. But actually, from the front, that's pretty damn good, actually. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think I'm going to waste any time bothering about the underside of that. It's pretty good. The scratches and things that were on here, you can still see them a little bit. There's one there, and one there, and one here. Just using a razor, like I did on the C64, you can see it doesn't really damage it or mark it or anything, but it is a bit scratched. But actually, that's pretty damn good, really, considering how bad that was. I mean, there's a couple of deep scratches there that you can't get out, but I think both of those, hopefully you'll agree, both of those look pretty sweet, really, all things considered. So on the Console 5 wiki, and I'll post a link to this down below, I found the pin out here for the SRAM, and you can see devices include, there's a whole family there of different chips which have the same pin out and profile. I think some of them might be DIP, some of them as SMD. So I went through these and searched, for different spares and things on the net, and I did find a replacement. I forget which one it was now. I'll show you it when it comes. But yeah, anyway, the bottom line is I need this pin out now just to have a look around on the RAM there. But that's the chip that I'm just taking a punt with, really. There's no chips really get warm or anything on here. The only one that gets just a tiny bit lukewarm is that one. I can't even know what it is now. 6260. I think that's the CPU, the 6270, from what I've read. Could be wrong, might have that wrong way around. But yeah, and it only just gets a little bit. It's not even really lukewarm, so nothing gets warm. I've measured used the Logic Probe here to check the activity on the RAM down here. This, I believe, is the video RAM, the VRAM. There's two chips, and there's just no activity there at all. I think it's highs and everything. So, but that could be that the GPU has not been initialized, and I think that's what's going on, because I can't recreate it, but I've been tinkering with this board, just switching it off and on. I'll just point you at the screen. You'll see, it goes from a sort of like white like that to obviously black. But tinkering around with it, you can get different colours to come up there depending on how quick you switch it off and on. But also, see that purple. Just once the game R-Type started, but the graphic, it was just blocks instead of graphics. Now that could indicate a problem with the GPU, but it froze very quickly. And the reason I know the game started is because, like, up here, sorry, the text comes from the R-Type and it comes from the side there. What happens? The screen was like a shade of brown, I think, and there was like a pink block, and this pink block started coming across, which was indicative of me of that's the letter that comes across, almost like it was starting to do something. But then it just froze, didn't do anything as it got sort of halfway across. So and then I switched off and on again, and I couldn't get it to do it again. So I mean, it could be a GPU thing, it could be a CPU problem. But I'll just show you what I did then do. Is measure activity on here, and there is activity even when it's locked like this now, which is what I would expect if the CPU had locked. Not locked, but if the CPU was stuck in a loop, or if there was some sort of crash there, effectively. More often than not, it will just loop round, and you can see continuous pulsing activity on the data lines there, which, just like I say, it shows to me that it's starting to try and read something off the cart perhaps and stick it in RAM. And then we've got an issue. Something's just looping somewhere, and it could be looping for all sorts of different reasons. It could be looping because, like I said, there's a problem with the GPU or something like that. But I figured it was only a few pounds to order one of these, so I've got one on order. But I'll just have a measure around now, and I'll show you. So if I measure around from here, pin 1 is. Hang on, I'm trying to get my diagram up. Yeah, pin 1's no connection. So we'd expect nothing, and that's right, we're getting nothing. The next one is an address line, we've got a low. It's one of the upper address lines there, we've got pulsing. it's hard to get a connection on here. That's a pulsing. You'll have to take my word for it with the pulsing. That's a high. With it, when you see it when it's pulsing, the red is pretty dim and the green's pretty dim, but they're both on. That's high. Pulsing. So we've got some address lines pulsing there, as you can see, pulsing. Then we're on to the data lines. These pins, the last three from there. That's pulsing. That's pulsing. That's pulsing, but predominantly high. But it is a data line. I think that's one of the supply lines or something. I can't quite remember now. Yeah, it's low. That's the ground. So the first three bits of the data lines, you know, activity. We've got some address line activity. I think the next 5 pins on the top here, data lines, pulsing, 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 and we'll just continue along here, pulsing. Somewhere along here we're getting to the, I think it's that pin there, low, which I think is the chip enable. We've got pulsing, and they've got a low there, and I think that's the output enable. Well, it could be that one, I'm not sure, but anyway, some lows, high, high, and then the supply. So, yeah, I think that last one's right enable actually. Let's just have a look at that. It's not the last one, the second to last one. We've got supply there, which is high, and the one next to it, which is high, I think, right enable. So it's trying to read from it, I think, and it's just not working. I guess it'd be nice to see whether there's any activity on the cart here. I mean, there must be. That's the first thing it's going to do, is it's going to bootstrap from the cart. But what I mean there is in terms of the output enable. I'm guessing the Hue card's got its own output enable, and something on the board is controlling which, you know, whether you access the RAM or the card. I think that's probably what's happening. I think the CPU's probably paging it in. It's probably like load, you know, reads something from the cart, sticks it into the RAM. When it's finished writing, it probably then executes, or something along those lines. It might even be able to execute straight from the card and then start writing to anything it needs in RAM. That's probably more probable. But we're getting some activity there, and it would seem that perhaps it's on the read it's going wrong, or something along those lines. So yeah, it is just a punt at this stage. We'll, you know, see what happens when we swap that chip out. So I'm just looking at the outputs of the clock chip there, actually, clock generator. So you can see there on one of the data pins we've got some activity. That's the data pin. Something wrong with that data pin. Maybe the CPU's gone. That's data pin 1. Let's try the other 5. I think this is like 3. Yeah, 4. Yes, so just looking around the data pins here, you can see we've got activity apart from on that one. One data pin's not got some activity, and I'm not sure why it's coming out so skewed. It's probably just this probe. It's a cheap probe. I've not calibrated it or anything. I'm just looking around the chip here, some of the other pins, like address lines. It could be that something's going on with the data bus on the CPU, because these are looking more what I would expect, whereas the data bus is looking a bit fucked, if I'm honest. No, I don't know actually, it's coming out okay now. You just that trigger. It's not right. It's one of the data bits. I think it's the second data bit. It just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right at all. Even the third one looks questionable. But you see, we've got quite long cables on this, so you're going to get weird shapes and things there to the signals anyway, I think. Although it doesn't really resemble much of a data bus, does it, in terms of what my scope's showing? But you know, I could have the scope settings not optimally configured here for what I'm trying to measure. But yeah, that data bit there. I'm trying to think how it's 14, 13, 12. Must be pin 12. That doesn't look right at all. Just doesn't look right. There's barely a. There's a bit then. Maybe it's. No, I don't know. This shooting up to the right level. Just don't understand why my scope's not showing me what I need to see really. Let's just adjust the trigger a bit. Yeah, it's just like this shit there, I don't know. It's very strange. There's something's pulling that pin low. So as you can see, I've removed the SRAM there. You know, nice clean job, just hot air for 350 degrees for maybe 60 seconds, probably less than that, actually about 40, 50 seconds, and the chip came off really easily, no damage or anything. I wanted to see whether the logic levels improved actually without that IC being on there. If I switch this on now, hopefully you can see the scope there. If I look at one of the other data pins, this is pin 15 actually. You can see, yeah, there's, you know, it's a pretty noisy signal. It's not very clean, but you can see we've got approximately TTL level back. And if I go down to the line below, this is the one next to the one that works, and that's the one that was questionable before. But can you see we've got logic level back? Now I've measured the resistance between ground and that IC, you know, the data pin, and I can't see anything wrong on the chip itself measuring it, but then again I've not got the output enable set right, so it may well be when it's outputting something's going wrong, it's pulling low when it shouldn't be doing. But yeah, all these data pins now I've got, well, aside from the fact the signals look really weird. So I think, yeah, I'm waiting for the spare now anyway. I'm going to give it a try. There's nothing to lose really. I can't really tell much more. There's not a full set of schematics for these. Someone did do a set of schematics for the, well, there is a set of service manual for the turbo graphics, so I might have a look at that and just see what's the same between the systems. I'm guessing it's probably going to have the same chipset here of these three main Hudson chips, so I might be able to get some pinouts from that, I guess. But like I say, I'm just speculating here at this stage that it could be the RAM. If it's not, I'm knackered anyway, because I can't, you know, I've not got any of these chips spare. It's only the RAMs that I can easily get. So yeah, we'll just go for broke. So I'm going to finish modding this now. You can see where I loosely soldered these wires on the underneath here. Your composite goes down onto the first pin, the bottom pin here of the second row. So that's your composite. The ground is the not the first row of first column of pins there. The second column, and it's the top pin. That's your ground, and then you've got left and right audio here as the, you know, the top and bottom rows of the very first column. So it's pretty simple to do a composite, left-right audio mod there, as I've done here using this connector. Now I'm going to mount this anyway. I've ordered a PCB so I can do the RGB mod, and I've ordered some of the SMD components to do that, and that's going to be a subsequent video, I think. But I'm going to mount this anyway, as well as having an RGB lead coming out the back, and that's what I might do with the RGB. I think I might just wire something in directly, so it's got a permanently wired RGB lead with it, but you've got the option of plugging in a composite left-right connector here, and the reason I want to do that is because I've got some composite TVs and things as well, and I can do composite capture, but I can't do RGB capture. But also I've got a standard TurboGrafx lead that I'm using with this, so it's kind of standard. If the lead got separated and someone wanted a lead for it, a composite lead, they could just buy a standard one, plug it in, and it would just work, because it's gone with the standard pin designation there versus the cable that I got. So that's what I'm going to do. So in order to mount this, obviously I need to drill a hole in here somewhere on the back. Ultimately there's going to be two, because there's going to be one perhaps for the cable coming out for the RGB, but you want something like this, one of these flat bits things, a wood flat bit. How the hell to get this out of here now? Yeah, this is the same one I used for the Neo Geo. It's about the right dimensions, I think. If you marry it up to the back there, yeah, you can see that's pretty much spot on. I might just need to do a little bit of filing. So the easiest way to do it actually is to pilot a hole carefully, and I'm going to do this. I'm not going to use this as an electric drill. I've got an electric drill, but I thought I'll do it manually because you can control the speed much better and go very slow. But it's a case of just putting the board in there, which I'll do in a sec, and then just putting the lid in position and trying to work out roughly where you might put it on the back, and then inspecting the inside to see what's there. You don't want to be getting in the way of these pillars, you don't want to get in the way of the supports, and depending on where the board goes, again, you don't want to interfere with the board either. So I'll experiment a little bit until I get the right position, and then I'll show you once I've drilled the hole. So here's a part way. You can see I decided to position it just near this little thing here, but it won't interfere with anything on the inside. And this connector, obviously I'll need to desolder the wires of it, but I don't need to use that bracket on the outside. I could just have it like that, because there's a lip on the edge there, but I will have to widen the hole a bit because I think my flat bit is not exactly the right size. But I'll just keep going with that now. Yeah, the hardest thing is holding it. I'm actually doing this between my legs, believe it or not, but I wouldn't do that if you're using an electric drill, because you could easily slip and drill into yourself. But anyway, I'll just finish that off and I'll show you the result. So you can see it's pretty much almost gone through there. Just got a bit of an edge here, so I'm just carefully just breaking this off, and then I'll file the remainder down just to make it nice and smooth. There you go, that's not too bad. So it's just a case of doing a bit of this, really, with a file. Just go around. The flat bit is actually almost the right size. I'll show you. You can see it's threaded this, and actually if I get this just right, I can almost thread it in and then put the knot on the back. You can see it's just going in a bit crooked there because it's not quite wide enough at the moment. So if I just give it another minute or so, 30 seconds, I reckon I can get that to fit in there, and it should go in really nicely with a good fit. And you won't be able to tell from the outside that there's been a hole cut. It'll just look quite tidy, especially if you get it straight so that the orientation of the pins look nice and aligned and stuff. So you can see some progress here. I just need to clean all this up. Obviously there's a lot of bits of plastic everywhere. I need to vac it all up and wipe this down. I'll wipe the inside down, and obviously I need to get the nut on the inside and not solder the connections on. But then that should be it. I should be able to reassemble it and test it. So there you go, there's the final result. The hardest part, actually, without a doubt, was actually reassembling the damn thing. You've got to get there's two little lips, isn't there, on the back that I showed when I first took it apart. You've got to get those back in right, and the board's got to be totally flat, and your LED's got to be in position. So, but you can see, that's looking pretty sweet now. I've got the standard connector there, and let's say out of one of these, out of this point here, or maybe out the side or something, I will later run a dedicated RGB lead. So I won't have a connector for it. It'll just be going straight to, a SCART connector. It's got the battery flap here. I don't know if you're aware, it's battery backed up, this, Now, from what I understand, this is not supposed to be working, so this might be another follow-on video. I'm hoping, if there is a fault with it, it's just the RAM chip that I showed earlier, so I might be able to fix that as well, but I think we'll assume it's probably alright for now. It's certainly okay for the purposes I want to, which is to get some video out of it. Anyway, I'll connect it up to the TV and let's just make sure it's working. There we go, all connected up. It's looking great. I might take it apart again just to strain this LED because it's a bit raised in this corner, lowered in that corner. So I won't show you, it's only a really minor cosmetic thing. It looks alright from the top there, but yeah, it'll bug me if I don't. And obviously it's working. So a quick update the following day here actually, and what I did is I put a tiny bit of H2O2 on the underside of here, and I think you can tell it's probably better for having had it done. The bottom side is pretty much the same as the top now. It's just a little bit yellowed but hardly visible, so that's pristine. And there was just a bit here as well. I put a tiny bit of H2O2 there and that's gone. So again, it just looks absolutely pristine. Anyway, I'll do a follow-up video when I get the spare chip for the second one. I don't think it's going to fix it, but you never know. And it's strange that once I remove the chip, the logic level seems to have shifted back up to a normal level there. So maybe it's indicative of the SRAM being faulty. It's just weird because I would have expected some sort of difference in resistance on that particular data pin. I think it was bit 1, bit 0 was alright, bit 3 was alright, bit 1 had a very strange logic level on it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.